It started with 3 knocks. Not frantic, not hesitant. 3 slow, deliberate knocks against the front door of our house in Redwood Hills, North Carolina. I still remember the way they sounded, like someone who didn't need permission to be heard, like someone who had already decided what would happen next. It was 2:57 a.m. The ceiling fan hummed lazily above my head, stirring up warm air that smelled faintly of summer rain and old wood. My alarm clock glowed dull red across the room, and everything felt like it did every other night in our neighborhood. Safe, predictable, ordinary. But that night, something shifted in the air before I even sat up. My dad, Elias Ward, had lived his whole life like the world was a coin that could flip at any second. He checked the doors twice before bed, sometimes 3. He'd stand by the back porch, looking out into the dark, hands loose at his sides but always ready. When I was younger, I thought it was a quirk, some habit from when he was in the Marines. But as I got older, I started to understand it wasn't paranoia. It was memory, muscle memory that never left. The first knock made my eyes snap open. The second made my chest tighten. By the third, I was already sitting up, holding my breath. I listened hard. No wind, no rain, just the low hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the soft scrape of the ceiling fan above. Then something else. A crash, heavy, sharp, not like glass breaking, more like ceramic shattering against tile. It didn't fall, it was knocked over. I told myself it was nothing. But the house was too still, too clean, the kind of silence that presses against your ribs. Then I heard it. A soft drag against the wall, like rubber soles brushing drywall. My bedroom door creaked an inch open. A thin strip of hallway light spilled across the floor. Leo. It was Mara, my little sister. Her voice was barely there, thin and trembling. Her hair was tangled around her face, and her eyes were wide in a way that made my stomach turn. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even shaking. She was past that point. There at the back door, she whispered, "Who?" "3 men. They've got orange badges. Like HOA or something. One of them has a crowbar." Her words didn't make sense. 3 men. Orange badges. HOA, crowbar. None of that belonged in the same sentence. At 3 a.m. I crossed the room, lifted the curtain just enough to peek outside. There they were. 3 silhouettes standing in the porch light. Cargo pants, dark vests, radios clipped to their belts. They held clipboards like props. For a second, they could have passed for security, but their posture gave them away. Too casual, too confident, like they'd done this before. One of them turned his head slowly toward the house, and my stomach nodded. Then the sound came. A quiet click. Metal against metal. Someone was testing the lock. Behind me, a floorboard groaned softly. Elias was standing in the hallway. No lights, no sound, just his shape in the shadows. My dad had always moved like a man who knew how to disappear. "What's going on?" he whispered. He didn't wait for an answer. He saw Mara's face, and in that instant, the air around him changed. His shoulders straightened. His breathing slowed. I'd seen him tired, kind, quiet. But this was something else. Something sharpened. He opened the closet beside my bed. Inside was a small biometric safe, the kind that had always been there but never explained. He pressed his thumb against the scanner. A soft click echoed in the hallway. For years, I thought it held paperwork, or maybe old medals. But when the door swung open, the truth stepped out with him. A matte black carbine rifle. Compact, no shine. Just steel built to do one thing well. He lifted it like it belonged in his hands. A quiet mechanical slide, a chamber check, a breath. Not a sound wasted. "Stay behind me," he said. There was nothing dramatic in his voice, no panic. Just a line he was drawing in the dark. We followed him down the hallway, close enough to see but far enough to stay out of the way. Downstairs, the low voices of the 3 men drifted in through the door. Calm, measured, not afraid, not surprised. Just men talking like they'd done this before. The lock groaned under pressure. The door creaked, Dad raised one finger without looking back. Stay. He slipped down the stairs like a shadow, hugging the wall, barefoot on the wood. I'd seen him move fast before when the dog ran into the street, when Mara fell from the treehouse, but this was different. He moved like time had slowed down for him, and only him. Then a voice from the kitchen, smooth to smooth. We've had complaints about your fence line, sir. Just need to inspect the property. They even sounded official. But their rhythm was wrong. The deadbolt gave out with a sharp crack. The door opened half an inch. Then another. Dad didn't say a word. He raised the rifle. The first man stepped inside, clipboard still in hand, face confident like someone who thought they owned the moment. But then the ceiling exploded above him. The warning shot was deafening. Plaster dust fell like snow. The man froze. For a second, no one moved. Then he turned and ran, crashing through the screen door, slipping off the porch. But the second man didn't hesitate. He came in fast, gun drawn low. Dad's voice didn't rise. His hands didn't shake. 2 shots. Controlled, clean. One to the shoulder. One lower. The man spun, hit the floor hard, weapon clattering across the tile. Mara screamed. I couldn't. I was stuck somewhere between frozen and awake. Dad moved in. Not a soldier running into a fight. A soldier finishing one. He knelt beside the man, pressed down on the wound with a towel from the counter, speaking to him in a calm, steady voice I'd never heard before. Outside, tires squealed. The SUV at the end of the driveway roared to life. One of the intruders was already running for it. The others couldn't. The sirens came a few minutes later, but it felt like hours. Red and blue light flooded the walls, making the house look smaller than it ever had. Dad stood by the door, rifle open on the table, hands raised when the deputies came in shouting, "Aim!" One of them barked. Elias Ward, former Marine. The officer's voice softened instantly. "You handled this clean. I handled what came to my door." The paramedics rushed the wounded man out. One of the deputies muttered under his breath as they carried him away, "This looks more like a tactical sweep than a break-in." Another replied quietly, "That's because he knew what he was doing. I thought it was over then." It wasn't. While they were outside talking, I heard it. Another sound. A soft scrape against the side window. A shadow crouched low. A fourth man. He didn't know I saw him. The fire poker leaned against the fireplace. My hands grabbed it before I could think. My pulse felt like it was trying to break out of my throat. His fingers slid under the window frame. I swung with everything in me. The glass spider webbed, then shattered outward. He stumbled back into the yard, flashlight spinning into the mulch. Our eyes met for a heartbeat through the shards. Then he turned and ran. My hands trembled. Not with fear, with the realization of what I had just done. Dad turned fast. Saw the glass. Saw me. "Good eyes," he said quietly. That was it. The last of the deputies cleared the property. The SUV was long gone. They never caught the fourth man. By sunrise, the neighborhood was lined with yellow tape and neighbors in robes whispering behind their hands. By noon, news vans parked at the corner of the street. By nightfall, the world knew our name. The headlines called my dad a hero. A Marine who stopped 3 armed imposters pretending to be neighborhood security. Comment sections called him everything else. A vigilante. A man who went too far. People love stories like these because they can watch them from the outside. But no one really understands what it sounds like when your world cracks open in the middle of the night. 3 days later, the tape was gone. The window replaced. The ceiling patched. The house was whole again, but it didn't feel the same. Dad was outside on the porch, staring down the street like the night might come knocking again. He wasn't holding a rifle anymore, just a coffee mug. I sat beside him. "Do you think about that night?" I asked. "Every day," he said. "But not the gunshots. The silence after. That's the part that sticks." He looked at me then, not like a soldier, not like a man ready to fight. Just my father. His eyes were tired but clear, like someone who learned a long time ago that the past doesn't stay buried just because you want it to. The quiet in Redwood Hills never felt the same after that. Every porch light, every slow car passing by, every knock at the door lived under a shadow. But he was ready for it. Always had been, and I was different too. Because once you swing at the dark and it runs, you never really go back to being the same person. People think danger comes with shouting, with chaos, with alarms blaring. But it doesn't. It starts with a sound you can't forget. 3 slow knocks on a door that used to mean safety. And after that, nothing is ever just quiet again.